Today we are going to be replacing the back spring for a Yamaha C3. I think this is 2007. We're going to be putting in this new Prodigy spring. It's rated for a jog or a vino, it says here. I think I got this on eBay. I think it was around 50 bucks or so. You have to make sure it's the right size. I'll have the size specifications on the bottom of the page, but it's actually a pretty simple installation. The nice thing about this one is it's got these variable tensioners. You can basically adjust, how hard or how soft you want the shock to be, and it makes it good if you have, sometimes ride with one person or sometimes ride with two people. You can kind of switch it up accordingly. So the first step to be able to get in here and take the spring out, we're going to have to open up the trunk and pop off this side piece. I think this is the only piece that needs to come off. Alright, so we just got the side cover off. There's basically one screw up here. You basically have to take off one screw here. There's another screw on the inside of the trunk here area. There's another screw, I think, up here. Actually, you don't have to take this screw off. It's a little automotive, these plastic panel pin things. I don't know what they're called, but there's one of those up there, and there's another one actually back here that you have to pop out. It pops into this little hole here, so if you try and pull it off, you're going to break your panel in a couple different areas. There's another piece, which is this little end thing that looks like a mushroom. It fits through this rubber grommet, and that's a little tricky. You have to kind of push really hard. If you get like a knife or something or a screwdriver in between and kind of pry it off, that's another part that's really, really easy to break. And then the last screw is going to be on the underside of the panel, and you screw it down from the bottom. You got to watch out when you undo it, because these little metal clip pieces that hold the screw in, they'll come off, and they're pretty easy to lose. I've lost a couple. So once you take this side panel off, that's pretty much it. And you have full access now to the rear spring. So to get the spring off, I have a 14 millimeter, it's a 14 millimeter nut. It's a little tricky. See, it's quite a bit wider than the other one. Alright, so when I put this on, it looks like there's actually not enough clearance, and I forgot about this last time. The spring is wider than the stock spring. If you can see, if I line these up, it's rubbing on one of the airbox screws that kind of pushes out a little bit. So I think what I need to do is, you can actually squeeze it on like this and make it fit, but you can see this screw for the airbox goes in between the tension of the spring itself, so when you sit down on it, it basically compresses on that airbox and can break the airbox. So what I'm going to do is actually drill out a piece of this airbox screw, because it's really only this little piece that seems to be rubbing. So I think if I can chop part of this off but leave some area for the screw to grab, it should be okay. So here's what it looks like after. You can see I cleared out some of that plastic. So theoretically, you can see there's just enough clearance there to where now the spring can compress freely without actually hitting the airbox. So hopefully that'll work. Alright, so in order to adjust this, right now it's on the lowest setting, meaning it's spongy. It's made for, you know, a 120-pound rider or so. So in order to ratchet it up and actually increase the tension, you have to have a special spanner wrench, shock spanner. I got this online. I don't actually know if it works. I got another one from a motorcycle store earlier that actually didn't work. So we'll see if this one locks in the correct way. So it's just barely too fat. I'm gonna have to grind this down a little bit with a Dremel and maybe see if that works. So it took me a couple minutes, but I finally got this ground down to where you can see it's a little bit thinner. So hopefully it should, yeah, there we go. So now I've got it to grip onto these little teeth in here, now that it's probably 2 millimeters thinner than it was. And you can kind of see, you basically just twist the bottom ratchet part and it tightens up the tension in the spring itself. So now that I've got the filter off, you can see that's the old one. Here's the new one, and they're both OEM, but you can see how dirty it was. You can see it's got kind of this panel on the back. I think it, you know, is there for protective purposes, but it also probably restricts some of the airflow. So what I usually do is I'll actually Dremel these little plastic, there's 6 little plastic drops that basically hold this mesh aluminum grill on, and if you just kind of hit those with a Dremel or some other tool, power tool, to kind of grind them off, then you can just pull this mesh off it. So you can see once I've grounded those pieces off, really it just pops off, and then you have the filter in here. It's actually really secure. I mean, you think it was in there just to hold it on, but this thing's really secure. It's connected on the sides or glued in somehow, so it's not going to fall out, and that will dramatically increase the airflow coming through. Then now that you have it open, you may as well clean, you know, the inside of the airbox. Just run some water through it, make sure it's dry, and that should be all you need to do. Alright, so now that I've got the inside of the airbox nice and clean and it's pretty much dry, we can put the OEM filter back into the airbox, and it just kind of pops in a little bit. It doesn't really click, but it'll fit really snugly, and then you want to just basically fit it back on and screw it back in, and you're good to go.